2 years ago, Kings Island breathed new life into a section of Oktoberfest, giving birth to Adventure Port. How's that going for us? Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are, and that's who we care about.
Hey, let's kick this off by thanking our Prestige members. Thank you so much, Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Stephen Horneck, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Dustin Jackson, Songsters Miku, Dakota Cole, and Lack Ray. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams, and some tiers we get some free stuff. So hit that link in the description if you're interested.
So Ryan, 2 years later, the sentiment about Adventure Port, it seems to be pretty positive. Many reviewers, they're praising the theming, the two new rides, the refresh of Adventure Express, the overall, just feel of the area. It seems to be getting pretty good reviews 2 years later.
Yeah, I mean, Adventure Port, it's funny because I always use the phraseology of, does the toy look like the picture on the box? And this is one of those times where it really didn't underdeliver. If anything, it looks better than I kind of imagined it would.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there was a lot of concern, what they could do with that. And we're talking just really a pathway, that wasn't the full Oktoberfest section, but just kind of a pathway. And you look back at the pictures now and you compare it to what Adventure Port looks like. I mean, that area had actually become, pretty run down, not the most attractive part of the park. A lot of fencing, that you had up with, rides like Slingshot, sitting there. So it wasn't the most attractive section of the park. The pavement, was a little roughed up there, the blacktop and that. So I think they did a really good job with it. The restaurant, Enrique's, the new color scheme, with it. I mean, Mexican food, so not a whole lot really changed there other than the name, but the backside of it with the bar and the patio, putting the boat in the water. I mean, I think it really, breathed new life into that area of the park.
I agree. And let's not neglect the fact that we got two new cool rides. Let's start with Soul Spin, which Soul Spin looks really cool at night. It's just hard to get pictures of it, but
yeah, it's a great looking night ride, and it's really beautiful too when you have that bright or that nice blue sky, and you got the color of this ride, and it's early in the morning. The sun's popping up, coming up behind like Banshee and that. I think 10:30 in the morning. It really makes for some nice photos, and again at night it looks spectacular there. I think, it's fun, maybe not the most thrilling ride, but it's fun and it's a nice addition.
It's funny because it is not the most thrilling ride, but I will tell you that is the number one ride that people won't ride because they either don't want to go upside down or they can't spin in that direction. I've got friends that have never ridden it just because they're like, I'll get sick if I ride that. But to me, I think it's great. I think it's a lot of fun. I haven't ridden it as much times as I'd like to think I have. I maybe only 2 or 3, so that's got to be on my list next time I visit Kings Island.
Yeah, I've only got a couple of rides logged on it too, but I think it's like I said, it's nice. I mean, it was something that Kings Island was lacking, and flat rides still are, but it was heading in the right direction with the addition of Soul Spin.
Yeah, Zamperla Endeavor. It's the spiritual replacer for the Hoos Enterprise. We had one called Skylab, which was not in this location, but pretty darn close to it.
Yeah, about 20 feet to the right.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty funny. Now, which one was better? It was Skylab. Do you agree?
I don't know.
Really?
I think this one is the better visual.
Sure.
I think this one, it appears to be a little bit more fun, than Skylab was. Skylab, I felt like you were more caged in.
Because you were literally caged in.
Yeah, I mean, so this one feels a little bit more more freedom. Feels it just feels better to me with Soul Spin over that.
I don't know. I mean, for me, like the gimmick with those rides, I'm actually, let me pull up an image of it for those who are not old enough to remember, because even I was pretty young.
I didn't mind Skylab, but I just really felt that the ride experience was just a little bit better for me on Soul Spin. I just felt it was one of those rides that you felt more like you wanted to ride it again.
Well, so the difference with Skylab, obviously with Soul Spin, you've got the over-the-shoulder restraint. With Skylab, you're inside these vehicles. You are caged in, but there's no seatbelt or anything like that. It's all centripetal force that's
Right.
holding you out. So that was the kind of cool thing for me. But nostalgia plays into it a little bit too. So it's whatever. But we finally got Dare Spin Keggers back, shall we say?
Sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah, with Cargo Loco. Obviously it's less thrilling than what you have with Soul Spin. I think it's still appreciated though, for its family, friendly nature. I think you needed more of that. I think what I find is, many lament that the spinning is not what they'd like. They'd like it to be, a little easier to spin than it is. I mean, it's a challenge to really get it. You don't even really get it going, but it's hard to spin on this than it was, with other things like that you see with teacups and other rides around the industry.
Yeah, I remember like Witch's Cauldron and
Witch's Cauldron. Yeah, so it's a little more. It's more tame in that regard. So if you're somebody that you're afraid of the spinning, it makes you sick in that. This is not as intense as you might find elsewhere with those with the barrel rides.
yeah.
It looks
Now,
good though. I like the theming of it. I think they did a nice job with that.
mhm.
So it's a lot of part of when you come into Adventureport, if you're coming from the side of Kings Island Theater, I mean, it's the first thing you kind of come to. And I think it's a really nice visual there. And then you got Banshee in the background. So I think it's a nice visual.
Yeah. Now, the sleeper hit that really put him on the right track was the revamp of Adventure Express, at least the theming elements of it.
Yeah, that turned out nicer than I thought it was going to, with the little touches, with the ride. That was very well received, was Adventure Express. That plaza area, great improvement.
Yeah, it has the old ride vehicle, which is actually from Cedar Point's Mine Train.
Yes.
With the monkeys on it, which I think is really fun. There's a bunch of Easter eggs in it and stuff. But Adventure Express is an incredibly important ride, and I don't think that the general public kind of understands how important it is as far as being a transitional ride where you're too big for, not too big, but you've outgrown Beastie, but you're not quite at Orion level. This is a fantastic ride.
Yeah, it's one of the best mine train rides out there.
Yeah.
It's definitely a top 5, I think, for me in the industry. But I think they really did a nice job. Just that whole plaza area. The logo now. How it's got it's got the rock and things. You've got the head sitting there.
Yeah.
That's out, that sculpt that's out there. I think that's really really good. And like you said, the little Easter eggs and that in the station. Just some of the props and that were brought in. We've talked about how new life has been breathed into rides like the Racer and the Beast, and same thing happened here. But this is a ride that it's underrated, and especially at night. And I think that Kings Island's lucky to have it.
I agree. But overall, the area turned out really nice. It was more themed than I thought. Having the little boat in there, which was like 15 grand, I think. Like they didn't get that for free or anything. Was a fantastic touch. I think
remember the email we got from somebody that suggested that you and I commandeer the boat and just take off.
Yeah, we lower the Kings Island flag and raise the Tower Tropics flag, like
and just
pirates.
kind of float around out there, going toward Viking Fury and that. I looked at it, it could be commandeered. We'd never be allowed back in the park again, but
we'd have our boat.
But yeah, I love the boat. I mean, it's just such a great visual, especially when you're outside like the Kings Island, or not the Kings Island, the Fest House, and you look across, and you've got the boat there, and how Enrique's looks with the bar back there, and you've got Orion and the racer in the background. I mean, that's a beautiful shot. I think our good friend Brad Purdue from KI Central, he captured what I think is the best photo I've seen anyone take from that location. I mean, it's just so vibrant and everything. That photo that he has, you can make a postcard out of it. But
The reflection off the pond always works really well with all those lights.
He captured that, and so I mean, I think it looks really good. I think to me, probably exceeded expectations. Like you said, you see the renderings and that, and you think, it's not going to look like that when it's done. But there's that one time, where I think, you can check all the boxes. They hit the mark with it.
Absolutely. Let's move on to some Tower Topics tidbits for your information.
Well, Grader's Ice Cream has unleashed its latest creation, Beast Feast. It's cookie dough unleashed. The limited time flavor inspired by Kings Island's iconic wooden roller coaster, the Beast, is part of Grader's summer bonus flavors, the Bake Shop 2025 collection. It's available by the scoop at Grader's location on International Street at Kings Island. So, Ryan, I have to ask, when you think of the Beast, does cookie dough and sprinkles, does that come to mind?
No, but I really, if I had to assign a flavor to the Beast, I'm not entirely certain that it wouldn't be cookie dough and sprinkles, because I've never really thought about that. What about you?
I could buy that. Yeah, I think, I mean, it wasn't the first thing that, I conjured up, when I think of the Beast is, the cookie dough with the sprinkles. I don't think about that, but I like the collaboration between Graders and Kings Island here.
I do too. Cool.
All right. The launch of River Racers has been met with enthusiasm and excitement. The ride is described as having a good amount of thrill, with riders mentioning the initial drop in the high-speed segments. They're calling those elements out. The fact that the ride allows single riders, that's also been huge for guests. That's making a positive, creating positive sentiment there, making it more accessible to a wider audience, that you don't have to be paired up with somebody to do it. So far, so good. Good reviews for River Racers.
Yeah, I've heard positive reviews as well. And I remember publicly doubting that it could be single riders, because no other water coaster I know of allows single riders. So glad to hear that. I heard some people say it's the greatest water coaster in the world. I'm going to hold judgment until I get to ride it, but it does look like a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it hasn't been above like 72 degrees since it opened.
No, not at all. Not at all. But the visuals that I've seen of it, and different videos that guests have posted, I mean, it looks really good with the colors. It pops and complements the other attractions that they have in Soak City. There's been some debate whether that is now the number one thrill attraction out in Soak City, or it's still Tropical Plunge. And it's good to have those kind of discussions.
Well, if you have a water coaster and it's your only water coaster and it's not the most thrilling ride in your water park, I don't know what to tell you. But Tropical Plunge is pretty intense, so I understand that argument.
Yeah, so it's good to see that it's off to a good start and that guests are enjoying it.
Yeah. Don, let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell.
Okay.
Buy or sell. The new Haunt Maze going into the former Blackout building being built by Plague Productions will be an upcharge attraction as a test to see if the demand is there for such attractions at Haunt. Buy or sell?
I think that I will buy. I think they're going to test that out.
For one attraction?
I think they'll test it out with this attraction to see if there's a market for it, and they can, spread that across all the indoor mazes in the park. Because all the Legacy Six Flags parks, all of the mazes are an upcharge. You have to buy, just like the Fright Lane, you'd have to buy something like that to be able to experience those for minimal fee, of course.
It's like it's $20 or $25. It's not like Fright Lane in that regard.
No, not like that. But I do think that, because it has never been an upcharge at Kings Island or Cedar Point, I think that they would have to test the waters. They just couldn't roll it out to all of them. So you have this brand new maze. Everybody's going to want to do it. I would think that, I'm going to buy that. I think that the opportunity would be there for them to run a test with that just to see what happens. Because if it doesn't work out, you just go back to next year and it's just available like all the other mazes. But if it works out, they're all going to be upcharges.
So you need to get over that hump of it's been the same mazes forever. Even if this is new, it's the same maze just with different prop. Because let's say they redid Madame Fatales. I mean, we know it's being gutted, but look, let's use Killmart as an example. If they redid Killmart, it would probably be the same maze with different stuff in it. And people know that. How do you get over that hump of you really going to charge me $5 or $10 to go through this thing?
Well, I think you'd have to
sell them on that it's new and it's interesting. And
yeah, you'd have to make new mazes. I mean, the only one that I think you could probably get away with keeping would be Hotel Saint Michel.
Mm-hmm.
I think the rest of them you'd have to kind of, and it wouldn't be a bad thing to kind of, refresh them all. Maybe you have 4 of them, 5 tops, and make them good. And, if you have to use the outside company, Plague Productions, to do them all, you do that to make them, better than what you've had in the past. And if you raise the bar a little bit, I think, people would pay for that kind of an experience if it's definitely an upgrade. If it's the same thing, it's not going to fly after having it, the way they've had it for a number of years. So they definitely would have to elevate the experience in the mazes. But I do think I'm going to buy that, that this new maze will be a test run and they will make it an upcharge. What are your thoughts, Ryan? Do you think it's going to be? Are you buying or are you selling?
I'm going to cautiously buy because I feel like, I don't know about this one maze, but I feel like that is something that they definitely want to prowl on, is make the haunts upcharge. And if they're honest to God better, if they're better quality, if they're more interesting, I'm all about that. I'm at the point in life where I'm willing to pay more for a better product. If it's the same crap and they want to charge me $25, I'll just go to the park and ride rides. Honestly, what they'll do is kill haunt attendance if it doesn't work. I mean, there's a lot on the line here.
For me, every year, I think, outside of one maze, maybe 2 mazes, the best experience has always been the scare zones.
Yeah.
So I think that you'd always have that still. So even if you weren't interested in doing the upcharge indoor mazes, you can still have a great time at haunt with the scare zones.
So this is my prediction. This is my 3-year plan.
Your 3-year plan. Okay.
My 3-year plan, because they might force me to retire like they did Mike when he put in his 5-year plan. So I'm going to hedge that with a 3-year plan. 2025, they charge $5 to go through this maze, promote that it's new and exciting and stuff. And it's probably going to be better than what they normally have. Is it worth an upcharge? Probably not. But people will pay it, not a lot, but enough to convince them that this is a great idea.
Okay.
2026, the mazes are an upcharge unless you have a prestige pass. Then they're free. 2027, prestige and gold get the upgrade. It'll be like Dinosaurs Alive, where it's like, if people can't go through them for free, they won't have any interest in them, and then they'll knee jerk and make it essentially free for everybody. And just really screw over the people that spend $60 for a ticket and then have to buy a wristband for that stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned Dinosaurs Alive. We just hit recently the anniversary of when that attraction opened in 2011.
Saw my Facebook memories. Me and Dane and Jesse Marchbanks and all those people. We all had safari hats on because we dressed up for it and stuff. I think we were wearing dinosaur shirts too.
That was really well done, wasn't it? It was really good.
Loved Dinosaurs Alive. The only problem was it was huge, and inherently I would get all the way to the back.
The world's largest.
Right. I would get all the way to the back of the loop. Then I'd realize I have to go to the bathroom. And there was no solution to that. It happened like 3 times. But anyway, yeah, I missed Dinosaurs Alive. I thought it was cool. I remember the original plan was to add on to it and stuff. Well, I don't know if we've done an episode on it, but if we haven't, maybe we should. Or maybe talk about what they could have done differently if they kept it or whatever. But that's neither here nor there. Anyway, we're both buying it. Yes. I think they'll make it. If they made it free, if they charge for haunt mazes, but they made it so it was included with Prestige, that would make the Prestige Pass worth it. But then they'd make it free for gold as well, because all the gold people would get upset. But let's move on to some industry headline news. SeaWorld SeaWorld. Summer's almost here and excitement is swirling at SeaWorld Orlando as the park prepares for its summer spectacular celebration. Kicking off this month, guests can look forward to a first of its kind dazzling drone show over the Central Lake, synchronized to the electrifying anthem Feelin' Electric. The night sky will transform into an ocean-inspired dreamscape, culminating with the park's signature Ignite fireworks show, in addition to the drone spectacular. SeaWorld will feature all-new live entertainment alongside returning fan-favorite events. Highlights include the popular bands, brew, and barbecue festival, parades, and a variety of delicious summer fare. Now, I will tell you, the Ignite the Night is one of my favorite fireworks shows ever. They've had the same show for about 5 years that they do during the summer. It's a mixture of flames, like fireworks shot off their little mountain in the middle of the lake, as well as like huge water geysers and stuff. It is such a cool show. I almost went and worked on it for a summer, like as a pyrotechnician, because I like the show that much. Then I realized it's really hot down there during the summer.
That's I would love that. You know, I'm a big person of the heat, so for me it would be perfect. This is one of those parks though that you know, gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. Everybody gets excited about Universal, you know, Epic Universe now, the Disney parks and that. But you know, if you got the time, you know, and you're planning a trip to one of those parks, Disney or Universal, try to squeeze, you know, SeaWorld Orlando in. I mean, it's a very, very good park. A lot of things to see, a lot of things to do. You've got these nighttime shows like you're talking about. I mean, they're all, you know, really good. The food is excellent, you know, so, you know, it's kind of a sleeper park. It's not the first thing you think about when you're going to Central Florida, but you should put it on your radar and you know, pay a visit. I think if you do, it'll become one of your favorite parks.
And stick around for the fireworks show if you do.
Yes.
Honest to God, it's so simple, but it's so good, and the music is always so good. And they just added a Soarin' ripoff, which apparently is like laughably bad, so you can enjoy that. But all their other stuff is good. You know, you got to have fun. We'll be right back with the listener questions. All right, first listener question, Jim from Cincinnati said, what do you think Kings Island will look like in 2035? Do you think the park will remove admission gates with facial recognition for entry? Do you think the queue lines will be eliminated for virtual time entry? Will parks go a more eco-friendly route for powering the rides, such as solar power?
That's a lot to unpack there, Jim. No, I think what will Kings Island look like in 2035? I'd say 10 years older.
Yeah, a few more wrinkles.
Yeah,
maybe a couple job promotions.
I don't think there'll be a whole lot that will, you know, really change. You know, there obviously would be, you know, some new rides, and some rides would be retired. I think they will get to that point. The technology is there. I think they will get to that facial recognition for entry, but I don't think they're going to do the, you know, the queue lines. You know, they're not that long to begin with for the most part on most days. You know, so they're not going to eliminate, you know, those for the virtual time entry. And I don't think they'll go to the more eco-friendly route, you know, with power into rides, you know, with solar power or anything like that. But I do think, you know, we'll see some different rides. But I think for the most part, you know, Kings Island has pretty much always looked like Kings Island. You know, when you walk in and that, it always has kind of that same kind of feel in that. So I don't think that, although, you know, with Six Flags now, you don't know, you know, what their plans might be. But I think for the most part, you know, we'll just see some enhancements, you know, some new rides and that, some rides retired, and a little bit different technology. You know, when coming in, I do think you will see that facial recognition.
Yeah, the facial recognition technology is already there. They have it at all the Universal parts in Orlando, including Epic Universe. At Epic, you had to scan your ticket and your face, but I know that with my annual pass, I can just walk into Universal Studios and it just looks at me and knows I'm good. I would say within the next 5 years, they'll have the technology. That way, there's no way anybody is, you know, selling an old ticket or whatever. In fact, I could see them having that for like Fastlane too. You know, because I can't tell you how many times people come up to me in the parking lot of, hey, do you want this Fastlane? I just ripped it off. We're going home. You know, so you could skirt the system or whatever. They could use that for security reasons. And like, again, how many times have they said, hey, can you be my chaperone? You know, have you been asked that, Don? Because I'm asked that about every time I go to the park after 4.
All the
time. My chaperone? Sorry, no, they're already watching me. I can't be doing stuff like that. You know, so I think that's absolutely there. The weight thing I could see. I could see them doing that for a new attraction, the way that Disney and Universal do. But I don't see them doing it in general unless it can be monetized the way that Disney does with Genie Plus.
Correct.
So I would put that on a maybe thing, because we don't know what it's going to look like on this level in 10 years. Eco-friendly, yes. I could see them putting in solar panels and stuff like that, because they've done that in California. And honestly, it's a big open area. If you can cover the parking lot in solar panels so it's blocking the sun from the cars but putting them into energy, like, I think that's awesome. You know, there you can make debates about solar panels and whether they're actually good for the environment or whatever, but from a pure guest standpoint, I think that's a kind of cool idea. All right. Kevin from Ohio, he said, Six Flags loves to say guest experience is top priority, but actions speak louder than PR. And investors clearly came first. Do you think that the next 2 to 3 years, guests will finally start pushing back against the watered down product and stop renewing their passes?
I think in some markets, yes. I think when it comes to Kings Island, Cedar Point, no. I think that, because it's, especially in Cincinnati, it's just, such a tradition. It's woven into, your childhood that you grew up. You always had a season pass. I think, that's just something that you just automatically do. You don't really think too much about it. So I don't think that, the product being watered down or, some rides being retired, that's not going to really, I don't think it's going to have too great of an impact. I think in this market, I think they're going to get the renewals and that, just because that's what people do.
Do they only care about the renewal, or do they care about you visiting? I mean, at all? Do they care? Like, if you renewed your pass and then never showed up, would that be a negative for them, or would that be like free money?
I mean, I think they want you to visit because they still want you to spend, some money outside of what you paid for your season pass. I mean, they still want you to buy the dining plan. They still want you to buy some merchandise. They still want you to play some games in that. So, I mean, I think there's still that, component to it. But I don't think that the way they're doing things is going to, and I think they think that it's not really going to impact, one of the markets like Kings Island with some of the cutbacks and that they know that that's what people do. It's kind of the neighborhood park. It's easily accessible, that people are still going to buy passes and people are still going to come.
See, what I think is going to happen, and I think what's going to create the pushback is, I think people are going to buy their passes, but when they would normally make 10 visits, they're going to make 3. I think that's where it's going to come from. They're going to start begging people to come to the park. That's where it's going to be, because people will, I agree, people are automatically going to buy their passes no matter what. You know,
that's when Bring a Friend free will start to be reintroduced.
They'll have Bring a Friend free. They'll do more with the pass perks in terms of this and that. But the reality is, I can tell you that people outside of like the hardcore Kings Island people are like, like, hey, when was the last time you went to Kings Island? Oh, it's been like 6 years. Dude, they haven't put in a coaster in a long time. Like, that's a thing. So if they don't invest in the park, it's definitely going to hit them somewhere. But the reality is, not investing in the park also doesn't help them unless you speak with your wallet.
Oftentimes they'll put in a new coaster over the years, and for the first couple of weeks, everybody's excited about it, but then they still go back to their old favorites. They still go back and they ride the Beast, or they'll ride down Mystic Timbers, or the Racer Banshee. I mean, they still go back to their favorites. So they're shiny new toys. I mean, they have to be really, really good rides to, for me, when people say, well, they haven't put in a new coaster, so I think it only works short term, that most people end up migrating back to their favorites.
No, I agree that your average gold pass or silver pass holder in today's world.
Yeah.
I think that if it was you or I, we'd ride the new dive coaster or the wing coaster, but you would ultimately end up at the Racer. I'd end up at Diamondback, whatever.
Correct.
But when in terms of, the 1 or 2 time visitors, if they're holding out to like, yeah, Kings Island isn't doing anything interesting, like, that's a thing. And they really haven't poked the bear that hard, because they've done enough to say they've done something, but they've really never done nothing. Like, we've never really gone like 3 years without a marketable hardware or event or whatever. I've got a feeling that may be coming up, and I think they're going to learn a pretty hard lesson as to what happens if they don't invest in the park.
Right.
Dakota from Tama, Iowa said, with Halloween Haunt only 4 months away, what do you think KI should do or needs to do in order to elevate the 2025 haunt season? Top three things. Here are mine. One, new additional house. I think we're seeing that with the crypt activity. Two, additional scare zone. Love what they did back by Stunt Coaster last year. Three, strategically work at this the staffing of actors better.
Well, I think that we do see a new maze going in at the old black outbuilding, so we're definitely going to see a new haunt attraction there. There is not going to be a new haunt attraction in the crypt building. That right now appears to be where the 2026 Family Thrill ride will go, in that building. I think you definitely, you want to do things, keep it fresh with the scare zones. I think, they could use another one or two of those, I think would be a way to kind of elevate it. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously the, hire more scare actors. I remember there was years that they would hire over, 600, 700 of them. Now they might have 150 to 200 of them. So there's a lot fewer of them. So I think that elevates the experience, and have them out in the park. If you really want to elevate it, it depends on what you're looking for the event to be. If you want it to be more family friendly, which it has been trending the past few years, you see the scare actors now that they're spending a lot of their night taking selfies with the guest, instead of scaring the guest. So, if you want to elevate it, make it more of a scare-a-thon, make it more, edgy in that, you definitely would need more scare actors, and you would want them to focus on being monsters, rather than, posing for those family pictures.
Yeah, I would say if they want to
Which is
elevate
great, by the way. I think that's, I mean, it adds value for the guest, and that, and they love getting pictures with the scare actors. So, it's a formula that's working, because, we still see the good crowds on that. For haunt's not as intense, not as scary as, some would like it to be. But maybe that's not the formula that it has to be.
Well, and you can always split the baby. You can always make it so there are haunt people. Because honestly, I don't really like the walk around characters. Like, if like to me, I can't get over the whole like this person's getting in my face and I'm just trying to walk thing. So like I'm probably in the minority, but I don't like that personally. I know a lot of people do, but it would be cool if they had the characters that would like be more walk around characters out in like International Street and so on, but have the mazes so they're a little bit more edgy and stuff. But to improve the experience, you would almost certainly have to almost gut every maze. It's just even the one, even Hotel St. Michel is a couple years old now. In the past, haunt mazes lasted 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, you definitely need more staffing in some of the mazes. Like Hillmart could use some more staffing. There's been times I've gone through that and there's 1 or 2 scare actors in there. And then you ask, where's the scare? Oh, they're all on break.
Or they were all 15 and had to leave at 10.
Yeah. So there's things like that they need to work on to kind of keep it at a higher level than what it is. But it's fun. I mean, that's the thing. People go to have fun with their family and their friends, and that's what haunt is. It's people love riding the rides. I mean, that's a big part of it. Someone don't even go through the mazes. It's about those night rides. So it depends on what your interest is for haunt.
I also think that more things around doing stuff in the rides, like having fog back by the beast. They've done that before. I feel like they could do lighting or something back in the woods there. They could do something to kind of spruce up boo blasters if they wanted to, kind of like how they do for Winterfest, stuff like that. I think would be. Oh, the other thing I'm thinking is they need a good signature, high quality indoor show in the theater. Don't ever make the argument of, oh, that's where they do the haunt makeup people. Yeah, I know that they can do that anywhere. They've had shows in there during haunt before. It's not impossible. That's an excuse.
Right.
Okay. All right. If you've got your own questions, send them to Don. Don Helbig at themeparksbydon.com. Your name, the city you're from, and your comment, question, concern.
And put question for TT in the subject line so I can separate it from the other emails that are coming in.
That's true. You don't want to email Don at tower_topics is our X. Send it to us in a direct message. Don, tell them about the t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts. They come in a wicked green, any size that you want, $22. That includes your shipping. If you want one, those same addresses Ryan just threw out there, Tower_Topics. on the direct message or my email, donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com. And I'll send you the QR code. Once the transaction goes through, we get the shirt out to you pretty quick. Not as fast as Amazon would, but still pretty quick. And you can join the ranks of those that own a Tower Topics t-shirt. It's always fun for Ryan and I when we're out and about, whether it's Kings Island, another park, maybe it's Meyer, maybe it's a Reds game, and we see people sporting the Tower Topics t-shirts.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more. We have stickers.
Mm-hmm.
These are really cool. They're vinyl, 4.5 inch by 3 inch. Those are $5 each, and again, includes shipping. These are ideal for things like tumblers and water bottles. 6.5 inch by 4 inch. Those are $7 each. These are perfect for car windows. So if you want a sticker, those same addresses, and you can get one of those. And we have some other merchandise that'll be coming down the road that we're pretty excited about, and we think you will be too.
Awesome. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir. That's Don Helbig. This is Tower Topic. Get your silver pass.